The next circuit is full wave rectifier. Second one is full wave rectifier. Okay, in a full wave rectifier, instead of one diode, we will be using two diode, and instead of using an ordinary transformer, we will be using center tap transformer. I have already told you about a center tap transformer. Okay, so there is a primary coil and there is secondary coil. Okay, so and the center of the transformer will be taken out and it will be grounded. So now we have converted into two secondaries, secondary 1 and secondary 2. Primary will remain as it is. Okay, input will be applying to the primary. Okay, so input AC will be applied to the primary. This is your primary input P1, P2. Okay, I'll name it as sec1, sec2, that is secondary 1 and secondary 2, and this is the potential across the secondary. Okay, now as I said, instead of one PN junction diode, we will be using two PN junction diodes. Okay, now the purpose is what we have learned in half wave rectifier, that only one half cycle is rectified. Now the purpose is to rectify both the half cycles, positive as well as negative. So instead of one PN junction, we will have two PN junction. I'll call it as D1 and D2. Both are connected in series with a resistance across which output voltage taken. If the resistance across which the output voltage is taken is specified as RL. Okay, so this is the construction part of full wave rectifier. So basically that is what we have to do: draw the diagram, write the explanation during positive half cycle, during negative half cycle, and then we have to draw the waveforms. Okay, so the first one is, let us try to understand during positive half cycle. What happens during positive half cycle? P1 is positive, P2 is negative. Similarly, therefore S1 is positive, S2 is negative. Now I don't need to tell you why during the positive half cycle P1 is more positive and P2 is negative, whereas S1 is positive and S2 is negative. Now you have understood the working of a transformer. When current flows through the primary, magnetic field will be produced. Magnetic field will induce current into the secondary. The current remains, direction of current remains same. The amount of current will depend upon the number of turns. Okay, so the polarity will also be same only. Okay, so S1 is positive, S2 is negative. Now look at these two diodes. The negative terminal of both the diodes is connected through a load resistance to ground. That means negative is already connected to negative. For D1, what happens is, now we can say this is the condition: S1 is more positive as compared to S2. So D1, for D1 P is connected to positive, for D2 the P region is connected to negative. So out of these two diodes, for D1 P is positive, N is grounded already. For D2 P is connected to negative and the negative terminal is grounded. So out of these two diodes, D1 is forward bias, D2 is reverse bias. So if this is the condition, what happens is, how the current will flow? It will flow from positive terminal of S1 through diode D1. It will come up to this point. यहाँ आने के बाद में distribute होना चाहिए, but D2 is reverse bias. No current can flow through D2. So all the current will flow through load resistance to ground. So direction of current will be like this: S1, D1, RL, ground. And how the direction will be? Positive to ground. Okay, positive to ground. Okay, so in the first half cycle, secondary 1 is used, half of the secondary. What we have done is, the entire secondary is divided into two parts. Center tap, in center tap we have the center of the transformer is grounded, so we have converted into two secondaries. So during the positive half cycle, secondary 1 is used and D1 is forward bias. Okay, next we will try to understand during negative half cycle. During negative half cycle, of course, the direction of current will change. Now P2 will be more positive as compared to P1, therefore S2 will be more positive as compared to S1. Now what happens is, see the diode condition. Now for D1, P region is connected to negative, N region is connected to ground, and for D2, P region is connected to positive and N region is connected to ground. So now what happens is, D1 is reverse bias, D2 is forward bias. Resistance offered by D1 will be very large, resistance offered by D2 will be very small. So now how the current will flow? So current now will flow like this. See, it will start from the positive of S2, it will flow through diode D2. At this point it can bifurcate, but D2 is reverse bias, so no current will flow through, sorry, D1 is reverse bias, so no current will flow through D1, so all the current will flow through RL to ground. So during negative up cycle, P1 is negative, P2 is positive, therefore S1 is negative, S2 is positive, and the direction of current will be S2, D2, RL and ground. Now what you can see is, again the direction of current remains same, it is moving from positive to ground. So when you draw the waveform, what you can see is, you get the waveform like this. Okay, so this is the positive half cycle when D1 was forward bias, this is the negative half cycle when D2 was forward bias. Again this is a positive half cycle where D1 was forward bias. So in a full wave rectifier, both the waveforms are rectified, therefore it is called as full wave rectifier. So the disadvantage which was there in half wave rectifier is removed by designing a full wave rectifier. Now both the half cycles are rectified. Now see, what I have done is, I have kept the output waveform of half wave rectifier as it is, so that I make you understand the difference between the two waveforms. Of course, it is clearly visible that in a half wave rectifier only half of the input wave is rectified, the other half is clipped, whereas in full wave rectifier both the half cycles are rectified. There is one more visible difference between the two waveforms, and that is, see the amplitude. What you can see, the amplitude, because see there is the amplitude of the output waveform is less as compared to half wave rectifier, right? Amplitude of the full wave rectifier is less as compared to amplitude of half wave rectifier. Why it is so? Because it is very important that you understand that in a half wave rectifier we have used an ordinary transformer, so the entire secondary voltage was available at load resistance. And now in case of full wave rectifier, to rectify both the half cycles, what we have done is, we have divided the secondary into two, right? So during positive half cycle, the first secondary is available, during the negative half cycle, secondary 2 is available. What does that mean? That the amplitude will be now half as compared to half wave rectifier. So that is what I have shown, the amplitude is less as compared to half wave rectifier. So it has removed one disadvantage, but now it has, full wave rectifier has its own disadvantage, that the output potential or the output amplitude will be less. So in the next circuit, which is full wave bridge rectifier, we will try to remove both the disadvantage. That means both the half cycle should be rectified and the entire secondary voltage should be produced across the output. So that is what we will try to understand in full wave bridge rectifier. I hope you have understood full wave rectifier. This is the last topic under the heading of rectifier, the last circuit, which is full wave rectifier, and we will design this circuit to remove disadvantage of both half wave as well as full wave rectifier. Let us try to understand the construction of this full wave bridge rectifier. As I said, of course, power supply will always start with a transformer, primary winding and a secondary winding. Okay, so of course we will use, in this case, in a full wave bridge rectifier, we will use an ordinary transformer. Okay, so input AC will be applied to primary, positive half cycle, negative half cycle. This is P1, this is P2, this is S1, this is S2, and now in half wave rectifier we used one diode, in full wave rectifier we used two diodes, and now we will use four diode and we will construct it in a bridge form. Okay, so so this is the circuit diagram. Four diodes has to be designed. So these are the four diodes. I'll name it as D1, D2, D3 and D4. Let this point I mention it as A, B, C and D. Okay, so we have the input from the secondary will be provided at terminal A and C, and the output will be taken across B and D, where I will connect a resistance across which I will take the output. So say this is RL, output load resistance. Now we have to understand the working for two different input AC waveform. Now during positive half cycle, again we know P1 is positive, P2 is negative, S1, therefore S1 will be positive and S2 is negative. So that is what we will mention here. P1 is positive as compared to P2, S1 is more positive as compared to S2. Now just look at the diode and we have to understand which of the diodes are forward bias and which of the diodes are reverse bias. You just have to understand by this. For example, say this terminal S1 is positive. Now for D1 P is connected to positive and for D2 N is connected to positive. Of course, when P is connected to positive, diode is forward biased. N is connected to diode positive, it will be reverse bias. So D1 is forward bias, D2 is reverse bias. Similarly, now see this terminal minus this negative terminal D4, P is connected to negative and here N is connected to negative. That means D4 is reversed bias, D1 is forward bias. Okay, so this is the condition. D1 and D3 is forward bias, D2 and D4 is reverse bias. I hope you have understood. Just look at one polarity and just check P connected to positive, here N connected to positive. Of course, N connected to positive cannot be forward bias, so it will be reverse bias. P connected to positive is forward bias. Similarly, for the other terminal, you have to decide. So according to this bridge, what we can see is D1 and D3 is forward bias, whereas D2 and D4 is reverse bias. So during the positive half cycle, how the current will flow? Current will start flowing from S1. Okay, so it will be like S1, which is the positive terminal. Then I will draw the diagram so that you can understand. So during the positive half cycle, current will flow through S1. It will come up to point A. Now from A, it should bifurcate. But as D2 is reversed bias, all the current will flow through D1. So current will flow through D1, and then at this point at D, again there is a bifurcation. There is D4 and there is one branch which is going to the load resistance. So of course, as D4 is reverse bias, all the current will flow through terminal D through load resistance to terminal B. That means current will flow through the load resistance across which we are taking the output voltage. Okay, and then from point B, what happens is, again there are bifurcation, but D2 is reverse bias, so all the current will flow through D3, which is forward bias, and it will flow to S2, which is your negative terminal. So this is D1, this is D2. Now what you can see is between point S1 and S2, that is the polarity, you have now three things: diode, resistance, diode. What will be the voltage drop? If it is silicon, 0.7, because these are forward bias. So if there is 12 volt at the input of the secondary, only 0.7 and 0.7, that is 1.4 volt will be dropped across the diode. Entire 10.6 volt will be dropped across RL. So we say almost the entire secondary voltage will be dropped across the load resistance. Okay, so when you draw a waveform, say this is the input AC waveform VAC with respect to T. So during the positive half cycle, what you can see is during the positive half cycle, the entire secondary voltage appears across the output, where D1 and D3 is forward bias. Okay, D1 and D3 is forward bias. Now during the negative half cycle, okay, during negative half cycle, what happens now? Of course the polarity will change. During the negative half cycle, P2 will be more positive as compared to P1, S2 will be more positive as compared to S1. So now we will write that P1 is negative, P2 is positive, S1 is negative, S2 is positive. Okay, so how the current will flow now for that we need to understand the condition of the diodes. Okay, so let us again go back by the same method and try to understand what is the biasing of the diode. Now the S1 is negative, P connected to negative, reverse bias, N connected to negative, forward bias. Okay, so D1 is reverse bias, D2 is forward bias. Similarly, positive terminal P connected to positive, that means this is forward bias, and P connected to negative, reverse bias. So now what happens is during the negative half cycle everything has changed. D1 and D3 now is reverse bias, D2 and D4 is forward bias. And how the current will flow? See, it will start with S2, that is positive. Direction of current will remain same, S2 positive. It will flow like this up to point C. And now D3 is reverse bias, D4 is forward bias, so all the current will flow through D4. Okay, so it will be like this. This is the diode and the current will flow through D4. And then at this point D1 is reverse bias, so all the current will flow through terminal D through RL to B. That means current will flow through the load resistance. Okay, and then from terminal B again D2 is forward bias, D3 is reverse bias, so all the current will flow through D2 to S1. Okay, so this is here D2 and this is S1. Okay, this is RL across which the output voltage will be taken. This is D4 and this is S1. So now again direction of current remains same. It is going from positive to negative, but the direction now has changed from D4 RL D2 to ground. Again two diodes are connected in series with the load resistance. The voltage drop will be around 0.7 and 0.7. The remaining entire voltage will be dropped across the load resistance. So we say the entire secondary voltage will be produced across the output. So in this negative half cycle, when it is rectified, D2 and D4 is forward bias. Again when there is a positive half cycle, D1 and D3 is rectifier. So in case of full wave bridge rectifier, both the half cycles are rectified. Okay, both the half cycles are rectified and the entire secondary voltage will be produced across output. We are not dividing, we are not using center tap transformer, we are using only ordinary transformer. So the entire secondary voltage will be produced across the output. So amplitude also, the strength of the signal or the power factor at the output also increases with full wave bridge rectifier, which is the most widely used rectifier for power supplies. So I hope you have understood all the three circuits. Go through the video again so that you can understand it properly. Next topic we will try to understand is filters. See, if you remember the elements of power supply, in the first block was transformer. The second block, what the transformer does? Transformer converts high AC voltage, high AC current into low AC voltage, low AC current, depending upon the requirement of the power supply design. So that was the first part, transformer. Second part was rectifier. What rectifier does? Rectifier converts AC into DC. But the output of rectifier is not a pure DC, because we are not getting a straight line. What we are getting instead is we are getting the output like this. That means we are getting a fluctuating DC. What is this fluctuating DC called as? It is called as ripples. What is ripples? Ripples is the AC component mixed in the DC component at the output of the rectifier, right? So what we have to do, of course, what we need is we need a straight line. So the output of the rectifier is not a straight line, it is a fluctuating DC. So AC component is mixed in the DC component. So what we have to do is we have to remove this AC component, so that output gives almost a pure DC. So the circuit which does that is called as filters. Under this heading we will try to understand 4 such circuit called as capacitive filter, inductive filter, LC filter, that means a filter which has both inductor as well as capacitor, and the last one is RC filter. R stands for resistance, that means resistive capacitive filter. So such a type of 4 filters we will try to understand. So the first one is capacitive filter. Okay, capacitive filter. In a capacitive filter, see what happens is that for this filter the input will be from the rectifier, because the third block is the filter. Before that we have a rectifier. So what will be the input for the filters? It is nothing but the rectified output that is coming out of the rectifier. Okay, so that is what I will specify here. Rectified output. Okay, rectified output, and say this is the load resistance RL across which output voltage will be taken. Okay, so what is the rectified output? Rectified output has fluctuating DC. Say this is plus, this is minus. Now in a capacitive filter, a capacitor is connected in parallel to the load resistance. Okay, there are one formula you have to remember for each type of filter, so that you can give the explanation part that to how it will convert fluctuating DC into almost a pure DC. So in case of capacitive filter, we write the formula for capacitive reactance, that means resistance offered by the capacitor to different signals. What are the different signals? Here the signals are mixed as AC and DC. So we will analyze what type of behavior is that of capacitor for AC and DC, and accordingly we will find out a conclusion. Okay, so the formula which I am specifying, XC, is capacitive reactance, resistance offered by the capacitor to different signal. The formula is given by 1 upon 2 pi FC. Okay, 1 upon 2 pi FC. Capacitive reactance is 1 upon 2 pi FC. In that 2 pi and C is constant, because 2 pi of course is constant. C is the capacity of the capacitor, and once you connect a capacitor, its capacity will be always fixed. So capacitive reactance is inversely proportional to the frequency of the signal. Okay, frequency of the signal. That is what we can conclude from this formula, that capacitive reactance is inversely proportional to the frequency of the applied input signal. And what is the input signal to the filter? It is the rectified output, which is almost which is nothing but a DC, but a fluctuating DC. So what we do is we specify here as for DC, what happens is for DC frequency is 0. Okay, so for DC signals frequency is 0. Of course for DC signal it will be a straight line, no alternating cycles will be there, so no frequency. So frequency is 0, and if you substitute the value as 0, what happens is when frequency is 0, capacitive reactance, anything divided by 0 is infinite. That means capacitive reactance is infinite. Infinite means what happens is it acts as open circuit, it acts as open switch. Okay, high resistance, very high resistance, it works as of course when you say high resistance means no current will flow, and no current will flow means it will act as an open switch, right? And for AC frequency will be high, and if frequency is high it is inversely proportional, so capacitive reactance will be low. So for AC signal it will act as closed switch. So from this formula what we have concluded is capacitor has a property, capacitor has a property to what it, see, this signal which has both AC as well as DC will come up to this point, and for AC signal it is acting as a closed switch, for DC signal it is acting as a open switch. That means it will not allow DC signal to pass through it, but it will allow AC signal to pass through it, and that is what we want. We want to remove the AC part or the AC component which is mixed in the DC component at the output rectifier. So capacitor, that is why it is connected in parallel to the load resistance. That means when the signal comes, which is a mix of AC and DC, DC will be blocked. DC will not be allowed to pass through the capacitor. So the only path for DC is through the load resistance, and AC is passed through the capacitor. So all the AC component which is mixed in the DC component at the output of the rectifier will be bypassed through the capacitor, while the other signal, that means the DC signal, almost a pure DC signal, will be obtained across load resistance. So what we say is capacitor has a property to pass AC. For AC signal it is acting as a closed switch and blocks DC. It acts as an open circuit, infinite resistance for DC signal. So capacitor has a property to pass AC and block DC. Therefore almost a pure DC is produced across RL. Okay, so almost a pure DC is produced across the RL. So capacitor has a property to pass AC and block DC. Therefore all the AC component will be passed through the capacitor, whereas DC component will be produced across RL. So what we can say is therefore almost a pure DC is produced across RL. So this will be your input waveform. V in with respect to time it will be fluctuating, and when you take the output of filter, what you are going to get, the output will be like this. So what we have done is most of the AC component has been removed, and what you can see is the line has almost become a straight. Of course not exactly straight, but is almost become straight. So most of the AC component will be removed, and the output will be almost a pure DC. Sometimes if such fluctuations are not of that importance, you don't need voltage regulator. You can directly take the output of a power supply from the output of filter. No need of voltage regulator. Voltage regulator will straighten this signal to a straight line, right? So that is what we are going to study in the next part. So sometimes voltage regulators are not required. We can take the output directly from the filter and use it for any particular instrument. So this is all about capacitive filter. The next in the 9 under the heading of filters is the second one is inductive filter. Okay, so the same circuit will prevail. We have a rectified input for the filter. The rectified input will have both AC as well as DC, and then it will be connected to the load resistance across which output will be taken. Now see the designing aspect. In capacitive filter we connected capacitor in parallel to the load resistance. In case of inductive filter, what we will do is we will connect the inductor in series with the load resistance, which is specified as L. Okay, so again we will go by the formula. we will try to explain the formula so that we can get a conclusion of how AC component will be bypassed and almost a pure DC is produced across the output. Okay. XL indicates inductive reactance, that means resistance offered by the inductor to two different signals. In this case it will be AC and DC. Okay, so XL in the formula is given by 2 pi FL, where 2 pi is constant, L is inductance which will be fixed value, which will be constant. So we can say XL depends upon frequency. What is frequency? Frequency of the input signal, of course, frequency of the input signal. Okay, so 2 pi L is constant, so we say XL is directly proportional to frequency. Again we will start with the same thing for DC signals. For DC signals, frequency is 0, that means XL will be equal to 0, right, according to this formula. And what we say when you say resistance is 0, resistance is 0 means heavy amount of current will flow, that means the circuit will act as a closed circuit. Okay, on circuit, so it works as closed circuit. Okay, for AC signal, frequency is high, therefore inductive reactance will be high, and if resistance is high, what does that mean? No current will flow, and resistance, that means it will work as open circuit. Okay, so this is the conclusion, this is the things which has been derived by the formula for inductive reactance, and from this thing we will try to conclude our result. What is the result? We say inductor has the property to, what it will block? It will block DC. What will it pass? Sorry, it will block AC and it will pass DC. Inductor has the property to pass DC signals and block AC signals. And see, in this case what is happening is it has both AC as well as DC components. So what is happening is AC is being blocked over here, only DC signals will pass through the inductor, and that is why the DC will be appearing across the load resistance across which the output voltage is taken. So what we conclude is inductor has the property to pass DC signal and block AC signal, therefore almost a pure DC is obtained across RL. So if this is the input signal which has both AC as well as DC component, the output signal will appear like this. Okay, so we have almost removed the AC component, and the output which is there across the load resistance is almost a straight line. Okay, so that is the objective of filters, to bypass the AC component and to produce almost a pure DC across load resistance. So this is your inductive filter. The next circuit we will try to understand is third one, that is LC filters. Okay, LC filters. Now LC filters, that means a filter which will have both inductor as well as capacitor. Okay, so this is a rectified input which has both AC as well as DC component to it. And now in case of this circuit, what we will do is we will connect both inductor and a capacitor, LC, where inductor will be connected in series with the load resistance, whereas the capacitor will be connected in parallel to the load resistance. You know the reason now, because of their behavior, this is how it will be connected. Again, when you explain this circuit, this question can be asked for 3 marks. You have to remember two formula, XC and XL. What is the formula for XC? Capacitive reactance 1 upon 2 pi FC. XL, inductive reactance 2 pi FL. Okay, so capacitive reactance is inversely proportional to frequency. Inductive reactance is directly proportional to frequency. Again, what happens is, for DC frequency is 0, XC is infinite, and for AC frequency is high, XC will be low, right? So what we can say is, we say capacitor, what it does is, it pass AC and blocks DC. So this is all about capacitor. Similarly, inductor for DC frequency is 0, therefore XL will be 0, and for AC frequency will be high, inductive reactance will be high. So when the resistance is 0, that means it can pass DC. Frequency resistance is high, that means it will block. So we say inductor pass DC, blocks AC. Okay, so in both the cases, what will happen is, inductor will block AC, it will pass DC. But is that a pure DC? No, it will have some fluctuation. That means still some AC component is mixed in the DC component. If you take the output of the inductor, and that AC component will be bypassed through the capacitor, so what you get at the load resistance is almost a pure DC, So if you draw the waveform, this is Vn with respect to T, this is V out, what you get is almost a straight line with respect to T. So using L and C both in same circuit, what we can do is, we can reduce the AC component, so that output is almost a pure DC. But this circuit has a slight disadvantage. Let us go to this formula. What is this? XL is equal to 2 pi FL. So if you calculate the value of inductor, the formula will be 2 pi F upon it will be XL upon 2 pi F. Okay, so the value of inductor is inversely proportional to the frequency. If it is low, what happens to inductor value? Inductor value will be high, as inductor is inversely proportional to the frequency. Now what is inductor? Inductor is nothing but a length of wire which has been coiled. Okay, so if the inductor value is high, that means more number of turns should be required. The gauge of the wire should be more, so that the value of L is increased. But what will happen is, when you do such thing, the size of the inductor will be very large, and it is not feasible to use such a big size inductor in a small circuit. So for low frequency signals, LC circuit cannot be used. Do you understand why I said that? For low frequency signal, the inductor value will be very high. The inductor is inversely proportional to frequency. For low frequency, inductor value will be high. And when I say the inductor value is high, that means the physical size of the inductor becomes very high, and it is not feasible to use that inductor in a circuit. That's why at low frequency, LC circuit cannot be used.